Have you watched Better Man? I mean, a chimpanzee and the title of the film is Better Man. Makes no sense, but what part of Robbie Williams' career makes any sense? This is not a hate video because I actually enjoy the film, but I wanted to make this video because I have a couple of things that I want to tell you just in case you didn't know. I'm not saying that biography, biopic has to be 100% true, because we've seen it in every single biopic that people just change the story based on the, boosting a traumatic effect. So that's okay. But just in case you wanted to know, I'm going to tell you 10 things that are complete false fiction in the film, or they just didn't fit the time frame correctly. If you watched the film, please comment below if you liked it, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, but also if you haven't watched the film, why you didn't go and watch it. Maybe something is stopping you. If you have any questions, just comment below. So I got 10 things for you, but the best ones go at the end, so keep watching this video. It's gonna be worth it. If you spotted any other false information in the film, comment below. Okay, so the first thing is Robbie is not an orphan. In the film, we see him having no siblings, right? But he actually has a sibling. Her name is Sally, and it's an older sister. She is not mentioned in the film anywhere. I don't know. Is it because he didn't want to pay her? Because if you do biopic and your character is based on the real person, you have to pay them. Which leads me to point number 2. His best friend is not called Nate. It's actually Johnny. And everybody, all the fans know this because Johnny did duets with him. He went on tour with him. He does Soccer Aid with him. Everybody knows it's Johnny. So why this guy is called Nate? Number 3, we're going to take that, okay? Take that era. Number 3, he actually did sing singles of Take That. Lead vocals of Take That singles were sang by Robbie. It's not like he never sang. It's gonna lead me to Relight My Fire, but first, he did sing even from the first album, and every time he sang, it became a single. I Found Heaven, and by the way, this song is sang by Gary in the film. Strange. I Found Heaven, What About Everything Changes? Or Could It Be Magic? I mean, that was a hit. So it wasn't like, oh, they didn't let him sing the lead vocals. Yes, they did. Not as much as Gary, obviously, but they did. Number 4, one of my favorites, right? The scene where he is trying to record a Relight My Fire, which that part was true. In real life, Robbie was supposed to sing Relight My Fire. But in the words of Gary, on the podcast, I don't remember the name of the podcast, there's 2 guys and then Gary. Gary explains, and now I don't know where's the truth because I wasn't there, but Gary is saying on this podcast, way before the film came out, that Robbie tried to sing Relight My Fire the whole night, and then he came out of the studio and said, this is too high for me, Gary, you do it. And then he left. While in the film, spoilers coming, he tries to sing Relight My Fire, but he couldn't keep up with the beat. So then he leaves, right? Because the producer tells him, oh yeah, we got it. Robbie leaves, and then Gary comes in and sings it like it's the easiest thing in the world. And then Robbie is like, So where's the truth? Are we gonna believe Gary or are we gonna believe Robbie in this film? Number 5, oh my God, Robbie Williams does not and never ever had a driving license. So there's no way he was driving a car. Maybe in his backyard, but never in real life, like on a highway and so on. Number 6, not to mention huge part of the real world story with the Angels and like how his first album was complete like flop, and then Angels came out and it exploded. This was skipped, not present in the film at all. But what amused me is that when he met Guy Chambers and the first song that they recorded together was Something Beautiful, which comes on like 5 years later on the album called Escapology. So that was definitely not the first song they recorded together. Not to mention that all the songs from the first album of Robbie were wrote by Guy Chambers because Robbie was wasted. And that's we have so many documentaries and footage on this. So, he had no idea what he was doing with the first album because he was just drunk. And now, basically, one of the biggest lies in the film. Like, there is a lot of truth when it comes to his relationship with Nicole Appleton, but the whole timeline is so wrong. And then, of course, the dramatic effect, like he envy her number one, all that. Let's put it together. So number 7 is Nicole and Robbie actually met after the release of Robbie's first album. That was already when he was already friends with Oasis, and she never had number one before that, right, with her group. So when Robbie released his first album at the late of 1997, they met on Top of the Pops when he promoted his biggest hit ever on Top of the Pops, which was Angels. So that's when they met. He already was exploding in the charts. And that was number 8. They met on Top of the Pops, not on the boat somewhere in the middle of nowhere. So number 9 is Never Ever. In the film, this comes to number 1 before Robbie even created any album, right? So he was envious because she went number 1 before him, which is completely untrue. But I understand that for the dramatic effect, it made sense. So just to summarize, Never Ever went to number 1, but way after Angels, which made Robbie explode in the UK. So there was no jealousy needed. And number 10, it's the last thing because it comes at the very end of the film where he says, you freeze in time when you get famous. So you stopped at that age, right? Like you stopped developing. And he said, I was 15 when I got famous. That's why I don't know what he said, not retarded, but something like that. Like he's slow or something because he got famous when he was 15. That's not true. He did not get famous at 15 because Take That did not get famous right away. It took years. So you can say they got kind of famous in 1992, which made him go famous at the age of 18. And I'm not saying there's a big difference between being 15 and 18 because you still have no brain, obviously. But it's a little bit of a difference because 15, it's like Justin Bieber exploding the world, and then being 15, joining Take That, nobody knows about you, and then 3 years later you go big, but still not international like Justin Bieber. So it's hard to compare yourself like, oh, I went famous being 15. No, you didn't. Justin Bieber did, right? Or, all those kids stars or Michael Jackson, whatever. So, it's a little bit of like, I'm so big, but I'm not, but I am, but I'm not. You know what I mean? Like, anyway, I want to say I definitely enjoyed like the first half of the film. I think it was so funny and brilliant and not so weird watching Chimpanzee, but I had my reservations about it anyway. But I think it was a really good film, and the box office is not showing it. Like, it just shows that people are not interested so far to watch it, which I think is a shame. I'm not saying that it's an amazing film. Like, overall, I think the second half was a little bit disappointing because the timeline just did not fit at all with what actually happened. Many people were left out of the film, like Elton John, who helped Robbie so much to get sober and basically survive his train-spotting phase. And then Tom Jones was in, which I didn't get. Like, who cares about this performance? Like, I don't know. Like, I have so many comments. I'm not gonna do the review or anything like that. People put so much work into this film. I think the acting was great, especially Gary Barlow. That was so cool. If he sings as well, like for real in that film, damn. So yeah, let me know if you watched the film, if you've seen it, if you liked it, and if you spotted any other false information in the film. Comment. I'll see you next time.